The opposition in Zimbabwe says 4 of its leading members have been prevented from going abroad, and one of them was attacked at Harare Airport. Nelson Chamisa, who's a member of parliament, says he was beaten unconscious as he was about to board a plane for Europe. Doctors say he has a fractured skull.
There's no protection. All of us are at risk. Actually, yesterday they were following me again to my home. I had to seek the assistance of my colleagues. Then they went away. If it means that we have to die, that's it. We need to sacrifice our country. I'm sure you know that people are suffering. And it's no joke, people are actually dying of hunger. It's because we believe that there's a better way of doing things. The easier way is to take guns. But we've not taken guns, we've not taken up arms, because we feel that there's a civilized way of dealing with political problems and the problems affecting our country.
Well, BBC News is banned from reporting in Zimbabwe. Our correspondent Peter Biles is in Johannesburg in neighbouring South Africa, and he gave me more details of the attack on Nelson Chamisa.
It was a pretty horrendous assault that he suffered. He says that when he arrived at Harare Airport and got out of his car outside the departures hall, he was surrounded by a group of 8 men, he thinks. He was hit on the head approximately 3 times and knocked to the ground. He says that one of the men was wearing a green T-shirt, the others were all wearing suits, and they ran off after hitting him, and he saw them running off towards 2 vehicles that had no number plates. And Mr. Chamisa was left bleeding on the roadside and was eventually given some assistance and taken to hospital.
The Zimbabwean government has denied any involvement in this attack.
Well, the Minister of Information has simply said that Mr. Chamisa might have been attacked by robbers. As far as members of the opposition movement for democratic change are concerned, they're in no doubt that this was another act of violence perpetrated by the state.
Now, why were members of the opposition trying to go abroad? They say they are being prevented from going abroad.
Well, Mr. Chamisa was on his way to Brussels to take part in a routine parliamentary forum, but on Saturday, 2 members of the MDC, Sakai Holland and Grace Quingy, were stopped from leaving Harare Airport. They were among those most seriously injured last week during the crackdown on the opposition, and they had been trying to reach South Africa for further medical treatment. In addition to that, we've got Arthur Mutambara, who is the leader of one of the factions of the opposition MDC. He too tried to leave for South Africa on Saturday afternoon, was prevented from doing so and was rearrested, and he is still being held in police custody in Harare Central Police Station, and lawyers are trying to secure his release.
Given the prominence of the attacks on the opposition, including the leader, Morgan Tsvangirai, it seems surprising that they would attack Nelson Chamisa again in such a way.
I don't think there's any doubt that the government is cracking down very hard at the moment on the opposition in whatever form it can. And the MDC leader, the main leader of the MDC, Morgan Tsvangirai, has described this now as a tipping point. He believes that this is the moment that could see the end, or the beginning of the end, of Robert Mugabe's leadership.
The United States says it holds President Robert Mugabe personally responsible for what it describes as Zimbabwe's continued attacks on the political opposition. A State Department official speaking after the security forces stopped an opposition member of parliament, Nelson Chamisa, from leaving the country. He was attacked and beaten as he was about to board a plane for Europe.
Nelson Chamisa had just arrived at the departures area of Harare Airport and was due to fly to Brussels to take part in a routine parliamentary forum when he was attacked. He says at least 8 men grabbed him when he got out of his car and started beating him, then left him on the roadside, unconscious and covered in blood. Doctors say he has a fractured skull, but Chamisa says he won't give up the fight.
If it means that we have to die, that's it. We need to sacrifice our country. I'm sure you know that people are suffering. And it's no joke, people are actually dying of hunger. It's because we believe that there's a better way of doing things. The easier way is to take guns. But we've not taken guns, we've not taken up arms, because we feel that there's a civilized way of dealing with political problems and the problems affecting our country.
The opposition in Zimbabwe says 4 of its leaders have been prevented from going abroad. and several others have appeared in public with injuries since police suppressed an opposition rally last week that the MDC insists was nothing more than a prayer meeting. The opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai believes the political crisis in Zimbabwe has reached a tipping point.
Things are bad, but I think that this crisis has reached a tipping point, and we could be seeing the beginning of the end of this dictatorship.
Mugabe's government has denied that state security forces were involved in the attack on Chamisa, instead blaming the opposition for causing havoc in Zimbabwe. Wendy Urquhart, BBC News.
The former UK chairman of Zimbabwe's Movement for Democratic Change. He says life for ordinary Zimbabweans is becoming increasingly difficult.
Mugabe has really made life very difficult and hard for the Zimbabweans. I think the condition that Zimbabweans are subjected to by the brutal dictatorship regime of Robert Mugabe is what's keeping the people together in support of the MDC.
And what about people who aren't actually members of the MDC, ordinary members of the public? What kind of conditions are they living under? We know about the economic problems that they face.
Well, I mean, if you look at the inflation rate in Zimbabwe at the moment, it's about 1,700. The highest inflation rate in the country. You know, it's very difficult for an ordinary person to live in Zimbabwe. The health system is collapsed, the educational system, the macroeconomic situation, you know, is undescribable.
How strong a grip on power do you think Robert Mugabe has? What condition is his own party, the ZANU-PF, in?
Mugabe is a desperate man, and I think he's at his weakest. That's why he's perpetrating all these kinds of torture and violence to the MDC leadership. He's now created some gangs, hit squad that are hitting people. And I think he's now taking the Hitler's tactics, or rather General Pinochet of Chile, where he would have some groups of hit squad that will go and hit people to try and silence them.
But not just members of the MDC?
No. If we go back to last week when he brutalized all the executive of MDC, the civic leaders as well were within the people that were brutalized. So he's literally, anyone who stands up against him, he is beating them up.
There is increasing criticism from the international community of Robert Mugabe and his government and its tactics. What more would you like to see the international community doing, particularly the neighbours, particularly South Africa?
Well, let's look at it this way. This has been going on for too long. Mugabe has been hiding and getting away with a lot of excuses, saying, no, he's not the one who's doing that. Now it's there in the open. It's a challenge to the neighbors, it's a challenge to the United Nations, it's a challenge to all the democratic forces to really condemn what he's doing. In fact, they've been condemning. It's time for action, I think. They need to stop him. Mugabe needs to be stopped.